This is Beth. I can't hear a thing. The owl was muted.
Okay, thank you. Beth, how do you vote?
She doesn't know.
What am I voting for?
Oh, okay. Basically, we're doing the minutes of April 22nd.
I will abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay. And Nancy came up with a issue in which it was just her name. It didn't say that she had seconded, so we're going to edit that. Anyone who now can hear me have any discussion on the minutes? I'll kind of go back in time here as we had a technical difficulty. Okay, for approval, Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Lindsay?
No, Lindsay's a principal.
Oh, yeah, I keep doing that.
Anne Marie.
Aye.
Anne Marie?
Aye.
Okay,
Yeah, that's it.
okay. And so that is unanimous.
No, it's not.
It's not? Oh, with one abstention. Thank you. Is it Monday? Okay. Public participation. Public comment is not legally required, but we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns over issues. Through these meetings, our board models for our students how to conduct public discourse, and that the board and members of our community can approach controversial issues in a civil and constructive manner and can demonstrate mutual respect. Having said that, please note the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed for discussion. Please start by identifying yourself and what town you reside in. Public comment. We have members here from the public. Okay.
Hi, we're
Eric Britton
and I'm Jenny McCauley. We're from Heartland. And I'm feeling super self-conscious because I'm used to being on a WebEx where you can only see me from the neck up. And I have lots of splashes from my kids on my shirt. So I feel like I need to go like this a little bit. But we're here because we wanted to bring to the board our experience and thoughts around the kindergarten entrance age policy. And essentially our fourth child, Lyndon, is a September baby. We had thought for a period of time was going to be getting ready to enter into kindergarten. She did daycare in New Hampshire, where the entrance date is the end of September. So we had that in our mind. We, along the way, learned that our date here is earlier. And in doing some research over a couple of years, believed that the spring and the winter time before her entrance year was the time to come forth and talk about it, and learned about the changes in the policy and the new current policy that's been set through that process, and wanted to talk about the policy tonight and Lyndon's situation. So I think and doing some other research across the state, it looks like the Department of Education has, as I'm sure you all know, a very broad window. There was an assessment done in September of 22 where, from an agency standpoint, this wasn't determined to be a priority, but the recommendation was if it was going to be changed, they would move it to September 1st with an assessment process through the month of September. And I think that what we'd like to talk about is what we are grateful to have been able to explore, at least initially, with our school, which is what that assessment process could look like if there was a policy change. So Lyndon was able to go to the Heartland Elementary School Kindergarten Assessment Day. I think Eric and I are really looking for basically a supportive process for a child that's in this really awkward year where we have an August child, and so she's the youngest. Some of her closest friends are the oldest in the class, and we know that that could go either way for her. And it would mean a lot to be able to have a path for families with September kids that are on that awkward cusp to talk about it with their school and to come to a decision based on that individual child. And so that's, I think, what we're wanted to bring forward. And I don't know if you have something to add.
Per what Jenny was saying, doing our research and looking at the legislative report from 2022, I went a little bit deeper and went into looking at all of the supervisory unions across the state and found one of them, I believe it's Edison Northwest, covers Ferrisburg and Virgins, and they have a process, and they bring in the parents, they fill out an application, there's a questionnaire on the back where the child is assessed, and then a conversation is had between the parents and the principal and the student counselor, I believe it is, to determine where the child falls in that assessment, and then the child's observed, and then the final determination is made. But they go all the way to the 15th of September, and there is, I believe, South Burlington that goes through to the end of September. Same process, that there's a questionnaire, an assessment, and then a final conversation. So that's kind of where we're looking at it. It seems that this is very, this process, there's no avenue. When you have these children who are caught in this gray area between being the youngest, being the oldest, where do they fit? Where do they what's the best situation for them? Do they start with their peers, what they perceive to be their peers who are maybe a couple of weeks older? Or do they go with their students that are younger who are a couple of weeks or a couple months younger, but may still be on the same academic level?
Thank you. No, I'm not looking at anybody. I mean, this is public participation. I have a lot I could share, but this isn't really the time and place to discuss it. But I am open to bringing this to a discussion at the SU board at some point before.
So then my question with that
September.
would be, what would that timeline look like? Because as
Yeah, well,
we're
we have to
sitting,
create a timeline.
Right.
I mean, so.
but I know that your timeline here, we're in May, we have June,
Mhm.
July, August is your retreat, and then boom, we're right into September.
That's a good question. So that's probably the first thing that the board has to talk about is what sort of timeline we want to have.
Sure.
One of the things that I hesitate on, not really hesitate, but if the policy is going to change from my educational experience, it's going to have to involve some sort of summative assessment. The AOE has a early childhood assessment that is inadequate in many ways.
Okay.
So yeah. I
From
mean,
the school.
on that assessment, it says this assessment should not be used for any placement.
Sure, no, I understand
that's-
that. And
I think we realize that too, and that's why what we would hope for would be, because it's not right for everybody, just because the date might have flexibility doesn't mean that it's the right thing for any particular child. We have 4, we at least can try against, it might have been a different decision for any of the 4 of them. So I think that what would feel like it's honoring the student and the family is the chance to have the dialogue, because we've been able to start that, but I think because the policy is still there, everybody's still navigating that, gently, as is understandable, but it's hard to get to what's the right thing for this child. And that's what we really want is the right thing for her, knowing that there's a lot of resources that help assess and support kids that are in lots of different situations and what, will help them on their success in school. And this feels like a light investment in this particular population of kids.
But when looking at assessment, that would satisfy changing the policy, there's a cost involved. Let me give you an example. My son Daniel came up for kindergarten, was way within the age limit, and his kindergarten assessment came back, and it didn't make sense. So, being the son of two educators, we had him assessed. Cost us $1,000, and it clearly placed him definitely in where he was supposed to go into kindergarten. Creating a way to have a summative assessment for every kindergarten student? Probably not, or so a lot of discussion will have to happen. So,
Understood. I think the examples of the school boards that we talked to didn't have that same sort of feeling of that it needed to be that formal, that it was much more of a dialogue and some basic behavioral, social, academic preparation.
but very few school boards have members on it with my level of expertise. So that's why I hesitate to say, oh yeah, well, we'll make it flexible. We made the policy for a reason, to have an actual cutoff date. So
What led to the decision around that particular cutoff date? Sorry.
yes, Elizabeth.
I was just gonna say that even if we were able to decide today that we were gonna pursue a different policy, which we can't do because we already agreed to the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, but even if we did, we would have to have a discussion about it at this meeting, ask Christine and others to come back with a policy at the next meeting, and then it takes 3 readings, and those are each a month. So
I will say this, when we asked initially, we've been looking at this for years. And when we were first advised to not bring this up until late winter, early spring. So now we're working against the clock on advice that we were given, or else we would have had this conversation 6-8 months ago, and we would have been easily within your 3 reading.
Yeah.
So because of that, because we went on the faith of what we were advised and coming to this board. So then what? We're then just,
I wasn't saying that to try to block you, I was just
I'm
trying
not saying
to,
you were, ma'am. What I'm saying is that it seems, the September 1 seems a bit arbitrary, I'll be honest. Because there's a broad window, September 1 to January 1. And even your own legislative report within the Agency of Education says we would give consideration for September children. So why, if you have a September, October, November, December 4-month window, a quarter of the year, sorry, a third of the year, would you move right to the front end of that and adhere to that so concretely? Given that there are children who will go one way or the other very fluidly within that time span.
That's a good question.
Can we pull up our policy?
Yeah, we know what it is. But,
Could we pull it up anyways?
it's September 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the cutoff date. And within the policy, there's no leeway.
It actually doesn't indicate specifically that there's no appeal or waiver process. It doesn't
Speak to that.
It doesn't speak to any.
No, it doesn't. And so
Hence why we're here.
the appeal waiver person, were you the parents who emailed me?
I don't think so.
Okay,
We've had a few.
We've had a few.
We've had a few.
Yeah, and so my advice to them was to get a medical report and then from a pediatrician and a suggestion, and then first bring it to the principal of the school and then the local school board. And then they could decide to bring it to us for a waiver. But that was just,
But when we've had this discussion at the Noniscutney School Board,
Mhm.
and it didn't come up to the SU board, it was a decision by the local board.
oh, yes.
We didn't
yeah.
have a policy, that's why.
Oh.
Yeah.
We had a policy, we sunset, every district had policies, we sunset them all. And then that one got missed, so we didn't have a policy last year.
Okay,
Then we adopted this, the board adopted this policy, I don't know, February this year, it was at some point over the course of this year.
Yeah.
Um,
If I may, why were those policies allowed to sunset?
Because we
merged.
merged, yeah, and they're all at the SU level now.
Okay,
Which I think maybe, I mean, my advice was to come to the SU board because the
Yeah.
SU board sets the policy. The Heartland board had a discussion at their last meeting because, Jenny has been in touch and Eric. And their advice was come to the SU board. That's the board that sets policy. And there is nothing in the policy that allows for or prohibits
either or.
Right.
a waiver. So,
For a waiver.
Right.
And so, I don't know what happened to the other parents, but,
we had an email from one
okay.
this morning, actually, or yesterday, Lindsay and I.
Yeah.
With a similar scenario, similar question.
I think the most important thing is to have some hard data from the child. I mean, that really is, I think, the first step.
And that's kind of where we were going in our approach to the board, is to look for that hard data as well that you have or that you don't have. If you have it, if we're looking for an assessment that definitively will say yay or nay whether the child should move forward or not.
None of us,
Yeah, and
yeah, that assessment costs money. At
it
that
costs
level of
money, and
assessment.
also
I understand that.
I think that so I guess if it's collection of information, and if in the absence of a permission or a refute of a waiver, I mean, we can continue to gather that, and I guess we, at this stage, are really still looking for an open conversation with our school and people who would help say, you know what, she's best waiting a year. We think she'd be better off, or she feels really ready and like she's going to be set up for success for going. And we know that that decision or that conversation could go either direction and would be comfortable with either direction. We would just like to be able to really have that, and for everybody to be able to enter that in good faith and give honest input without feeling like it doesn't matter or hamstrung because there's a policy and we don't want to go against the policy. So if what I kind of just heard you say was that in the absence of something that says you can't request a waiver to bring forth hard data, that I am interpreting as there might be a little bit of space to
Well,
really have this conversation.
I'm in the middle of negotiations, so I'll use my compromise, okay? Christine and I will meet. We will review the state law. We will review the policy. And we will see if it would be appropriate for us to entertain a waiver with the way the policy is written now.
Okay,
Okay?
that would be great.
Okay.
And in future, I guess, bringing this forward, knowing that it's Lyndon, we're on a timeline for her, but there are other kids and families. We just wanted to offer support in continuing to work on this, regardless of the timeline, and if we can be helpful. And we've appreciated some openness to try and have a conversation, and that's just what we would hope for everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
for coming. I do appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Go, you can stay. It's good here.
I'm gonna go wash my shirt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My
The
assumption is
beauty
you.
of black.
you gotta use it all the
We
way.
do, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we,
Sorry.
is it fair to say that I can reach back out to them with what we come up with?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for listening.
yes.
Thanks for coming.
Okay. Is there anyone else in public participation? And I apologize that took so long, but at the time I felt it was rather important to take that long with parents who actually come to the board meeting. Superintendent's report.
Yes, let me get my screen sharing with you. Right. Okay. Good evening. How is everyone? It's been a day. It's only Monday. We were talking about that as we came in. So my report tonight starts with 2 procedures that are in the portal. The procedures for student athletic clubs and activities we actually worked on earlier. So it's not really changed, but I'm just going through each one. I did want to report back that I did catch up with Superintendent Renee Sanchez, who Elizabeth pointed
good.
me to. Yeah, we had a good conversation. I didn't know he was leaving, but he is.
He is?
Yeah,
No, where's he going?
he's going to be a consultant. So yeah, he's great. But so the process that he shared with me about how they adopt policy and procedures is they do it in subcommittee. So the board, there's it's a warned meeting. There are some board members, administration, and other groups that the policy might pertain to that enter those meetings. And then when the policy comes to the board, it's pretty much just adopted because the committee's already looked at it. So I don't know if the board is interested in that kind of scheduling for policy work and procedures. I know that Tracy and I have talked at length because we know we need to write some procedures for the transgender policy. And so what we would like to do is, and Tracy I'm going to get this wrong because I don't have my notes in front of me because my other computer wouldn't start. We're trying to partner with Outright Vermont next year. And what we're hoping to do is work with Outright Vermont and some students and other stakeholders in crafting those procedures for that policy next year. So we think that makes sense. We know it's going to take a little bit of time, but we think it's really important to get it right and get voice from lots of stakeholders. So
you're just talking at this specific area about C22.
no, those are just the procedures that are in the portal for this month for you to
Okay.
review. I'm just talking about in general because Elizabeth has asked about a kind of a implementation procedure for policies and procedures, or an implementation plan. So I spoke with Renee on her
And
recommendation.
this group assists with that?
Outright Vermont will help us with the transgender
Oh, okay.
procedures, not with all of them, but,
Oh, okay.
but with that one in particular. So that's our plan for next year. We're hoping to partner with them. We'll know.
Later May. I heard from them last week and they said it's taking a little bit longer, but we should hear from them by the end of May.
So we're hoping to have a year-long partnership with them.
Ideally, yeah, they partner in a lot of different ways, but we could have a year-long with a dedicated cohort of folks across the SU who are working with them on a regular basis. I think it's 8 sessions, 2 hours each, so there would be a dedicated group of folks meeting with them, building our capacity.
Excellent.
And working in that direction for some procedures don't need that, like they're pretty standard, but some do. So in that, policies as well. It feels like what we did for the hiring, recruiting, we worked together brought some recommendations to the board. And we did that with the transgender policy as well, getting feedback from different stakeholders. So it was a great conversation. I'm sad he's leaving too, but he did share his expertise. I want to just update you on a couple of things this summer. We've got Katie has got Summer Academy up and planned, and she's hiring staff currently as we speak, I believe, getting that all set up, getting
Have staff all set.
all set.
Couple more support staff are probably needed as we get more rolling admissions, and I think we're at 80 students now from the time I gave you
Keeps
that.
changing, yep.
And an increase. We'll have an email going out or in all the newsletters of the openings we have per grade level. I'm gonna do it this time. And so for families who haven't signed up or didn't get invites, it can be first come, first served if there's others that would like to attend.
And it's 8:30 to 12:30, breakfast and lunch served. Students, they have an opportunity to stay in the afternoon at BTG. Brian's running a STEAM camp in the afternoon at his school, so we'll bus kids back to that. And Heartland kids get bused back and they go to the rec in the afternoon. But Wednesdays will be field trip day, and Katie's using some of the Act 166 grant, 112, there's too many,
There's numbers.
to help fund those kinds of enriching activities for the kids in the summer. So very excited about that. And we are also working on running an SEI boot camp. Jennifer Aldrich has pretty much taken the lead on this one. We'll run 2 sessions for our SEIs. And this idea came out of just the fact that these people are doing really difficult and challenging work, sometimes with our most challenging kiddos who are struggling with things, and there's just not enough training for them. So we, not me, I think it was Sergio, came up with this idea of a boot camp. It's optional. They're going to get paid. They can choose one of the 2 dates to come, and we'll be working on they'll be working on relationship and skill building through restorative and reflective practices, trauma-informed practices, collaborative problem solving, and then working with students with the BCBA team. They'll be there to help.
What
So,
is BCBA?
Board
Board Certified Behavior Analyst. Good, I do letters.
and they're often doing the functional behavioral assessments, writing the student plans that the SEIs often help implement. So it makes sense for them to be there. So that's very exciting. We're happy to be able to being able to do that. Here comes the unhappy news. I think I passed these out. We have some resignations and retirements. You have a packet with 3 of them. Not all of them are resignations. Some just didn't sign their contract. So the first one is Gene Morse. It'd be surprising if people don't know Mr. Morris. He's just a larger than life kind of guy. He's been with us for many years. I worked with him at Heartland, had the honor of working with him at Heartland for my tenure there, and he was an amazing school counselor. I think 2 years ago, he wanted to start to go part-time and was certified to be a school psychologist. I get that right. And so
Yes.
he's been working under Katie part-time for the last 2 years, but he is going to retire at the end of this year. I will say he is a man that puts his heart and soul into what he does. And if he feels like he can't do it at 100%, it just drives him a little bit crazy. So he's gonna retire. So we'll be looking for that approval later on. The next 2 Katie can speak to.
Both Sarah and Tyler, both are not returning next year because they're moving far away. One really far away with an ocean between us. So we're sad to see both of them go. They've been a wonderful addition, actually. They both happen to be at Heartland as well. Rest assured, it's not Heartland, it just sometimes happens in a bubble.
Yep. And the next 2, we have resignations from Craig, who you all know, who's built an incredible food service program, independent food service program for our SU. And after, I think this is his 6th year with us, he is going to leave to pursue other opportunities that he has. And a short time after Craig resigned, our assistant
Oh.
food service director, Rodney, also resigned. So we're very sad about both of those. Larry has met with the staff, reassured them that we're working to hire another independent food service director. We have the ad up. I don't know, I haven't chatted with you about any applications yet, but
We have applicants. I met with the
oh, great.
food service team, and there's some other avenues we could discuss. And I think it was a good meeting. I think they appreciated it. I learned a lot, and they're going to be on committee that will hire. And I said we're going to find somebody that you're going to be proud to work for, and we're going to move forward. And the question that came up was, what if we don't find somebody by September that's right? And I said, I guess I'm going to be meeting with the lead cooks weekly. That's what it takes, because we're going to take our time and find the right person, the right fit.
So those are what we have for tonight for retirements and resignations. Katie has been working diligently on hiring, so I want to give her a chance to just talk about who she's got lined up.
Frank Kelly is coming to us with many, many years of middle school teaching, and all certified in all subject areas, which is pretty amazing. And he's joining us as a special interventionist within the Windsor ACE classroom, specifically working on the on-the-job training, community building skills of our high school students who are now transitioning to looking at workforce and those skills. We have a critical mass of those students are now reaching 11th and 12th grade, and that's part of their transition program, and for 12th plus. Very excited to have him join our team. Two special educators, one will be familiar, Donna Hatch has been a special educator at Heartland School for a long time, went and is doing intervention work as a teacher, and now is coming back to special education, so we're thrilled. So that's an easy switch. Patty Fish is right now working with us remotely and doing tutoring and other things because she's out of state, and she's joining us in person at Heartland in the elementary. So we were very fortunate to have her. And Jeannie Wade is also a local special educator, and actually just all of these people are Vermont folks, so they know, which is nice, not starting from scratch. Jeannie is coming to us from another regional partner, and we'll be doing the paperwork, special education work that we were short that person this year. And the last one that, thinking out of the box, because remember I don't have one, remember how we talked about Leota doing a leave of absence? So Leota's no longer going to do the leave of absence. Thank you for entertaining that conversation when we did it. I just put out there, all of the bites I had directly for school psychologists were from remote. And then we had light bulb moments, because this is what happens when you have a little time. Leota and the other school psychs, including Jean, we all met and chatted about opportunities. So Leota will be doing a lot of paperwork, including counseling, and some of the meetings, quite a chunk of it, things that she can do remotely from where she is, and it works out really well. The other, and I think I had mentioned this at the board meeting, we would be looking for an educational diagnostician that could be a special education teacher, and been speaking with one person we had interviewed that's very interested in doing that. And now that we have a format, we'll be moving forward with that. So testing will be taken care of. It's just going to take some creativity on the part of both Leota and our other school psychologist, Nicole Pass, to do next year. So I appreciate them greatly to think no boxes. So Leota did reapply and we said yes.
And Bill, I just did notice that there's not an action for those on the agenda, approving those hires. So
Approving those hires? We'll have to do that.
okay, that's fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have the question of the month survey results for you yet, because that survey on the continuous improvement plan is still open. But I did want to follow up with you on a survey that we gave to the staff. It was the cell phone follow-up survey. I know we had a lot of conversations about the cell phone and procedures that we're going to put in place, and I wanted to follow up to see how they worked. So the graph, I'm sorry, it's small. So high school is blue, middle school is red, and elementary is the yellow-orange color. So that was just the grade level that you teach. We had a good response, 101. So the first question was, in your opinion, did the no cell phones out in school protocol reduce cell phone disruptions in your classes or in your work with students? 1 is a no. That was about 9% of the folks said no. 4 was yes, so in between no and yes. To almost 22% of the people that responded scored that at a 2, almost 20% at a 3, and about 50% at a 4. So 50% of the people that responded felt it did reduce disruptions. So we went a little bit deeper. How often do you have to report a student for not following the procedures? Blue is multiple times a day. That's about 20%. 1 time a day is red. More than once a week, orange. Once a week, green. More than once a month, purple. 1 time per month, turquoise. And then never is the pink there. Then we asked, do you still find cell phones to be a problem in school? And we were split there. 42% say yes, and 58% say no. And I don't have my notes in front of me because I'm sharing, but let me see if I can look back. Hold on. Because I can't. I broke it down between elementary, middle, and high school. So the biggest complaint is at the high school level. There were some middle school teachers that said it was still a problem, but it was a small number out of the people that took it. But there was a much larger number at the high school level that are saying that cell phones are still an issue at the high school level. So the next question I asked was, do you think we need additional measures to prevent students from using cell phones in school? Example, I don't know if you've seen the Yonder pouches advertised. I can explain quickly. They're just a pouch. Kids come in to school, they put their phone in the pouch so they can still have their phone on them, but it gets locked. It's like a magnetic lock. So their phones are still with them, but they're not accessible. So they're not able to use them. When they leave the school, there's like this magnetic hub where they unlock the pouch and take their phone out and use it. So the staff said 45.9% said yes, 54.1% said no. Again, that was mostly high school. So
The high school said no, or high school said
yes, the high school staff seemed to be wanting something more.
Okay.
So at Hartford,
That was
they have about 10 of them.
Yonder pouches?
At the middle
Okay.
school. And so they use them for students who are repeat offenders.
Okay.
Um,
Does that work pretty well?
Well, it's sort of in a beta program, so.
Well, I don't have an answer for you tonight. I just wanted to bring it to your attention because we did implement some, stricter guidelines this year and had some success, but it feels like not enough at the high school level. So I'll keep you in the loop when we figure out how to move forward. Yes, Davis.
Yeah, I'd be interested in having more of a conversation on this at some point, really focused on the middle school and high school data. Because my understanding, I don't know if we had a policy before, but I never got the impression that this was really a grade school issue.
No.
So to have that data in there, you read my mind, because I feel like this is skewed that many.
For
It
sure.
was like 50% of respondents were elementary school teachers.
Yep.
Yep. And I mean, it might just be interesting to hear if there was more like kind of narrative response from high school, middle school teachers, and any ideas, or I'm not surprised that it's still an issue there because we're 1 year into a policy that's impacting the use of extremely addictive and kind of omnipresent devices.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a multi-year process to really figure out what the approach is, and it's probably going to be a
trial and error.
It's going to be trial and error, and I don't think that there is a permanent solution to it. I think it's just something we need to remain engaged in. And so, I would love to continue that conversation.
I just have a quick question. Does this include like smartwatches?
Yeah, they're not supposed to be using them during the day.
Because I was just wondering if that was part of this data, because that I think is more effective. The smartwatches are definitely in the elementary school.
Yeah.
I just was curious if that was part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Not like necessarily Apple Watches, but
Okay, wanted to invite you all to the graduations that are coming up. Windsor High School is the 7th, it's coming right up, I can't believe it, 7 o'clock. Weathersfield on the 10th at 6, ABS at 9 on the 12th, Heartland at 4 on the 12th, Windsor at 6 on the 12th. The 12th is gonna be a busy day, but hoping that you can, sorry Elizabeth, I'm right in your vantage point. Hoping that you can attend one or some or all if it's possible. And then that is Larry's report, but he's after Tracy, so I will stop sharing and let Tracy present, unless there are questions for me. Right. Tracy, do you want to present your screen?
Wait, I'm sorry. What about the survey from?
Mike Nicholson,
Yeah.
yes. He is coming to the June meeting, so he was gonna come tonight, but he is coming in June. I'm gonna confirm that with my meeting with him tomorrow. So the survey ended on May 15th, and he has pretty good turnout. So he's analyzing all that data, and he'll bring that too. He wanted to come actually and present it. I mean, he's not gonna come in person, but he's gonna come remotely to go through that with you. It's pretty important data.
Will we be able to look at it before
I can ask him. Sure.
I'd love to be able to ask questions.
Yeah. I will ask him tomorrow when I meet with him.
Thanks.
All right, Bill, back to you.
Really back to me.
You get to send it on to the next thing.
All right, I'll take it. Apologies for not sending out a notice to say no need for any free work, because tonight I just want to share. I had promised back in the fall maybe to have a plan for, to share about what are we doing with diversity, equity, inclusion, what is that going to look like. So that is what I will be sharing tonight, along with a couple of spotlights. These are just a few highlights for some things that have happened over the last couple months. One is I want to share there's a coalition that we're now a part of. The Great Schools Partnership started this Diversifying the Educator Workforce. I might have mentioned this. It's a process they've been doing in a number of different states. And so they started doing this in Vermont and calling together a number of folks representing a lot of organizations across the state to set a goal and think about what is it that we're trying to do in the state of Vermont to increase the diversity of our educator workforce, which is great timing because it's also, we're working on hiring practices, so this will feed into that. And I also heard that like BPA and the Education Justice Coalition are planning to put together a whole package of materials like by next hiring season to share out that will help support SUs in thinking about what we're doing to not just recruit, but retain, promote, all of that. And so this is, there's a report, I just pulled out one image from this. If you can see the image on the top left, it shows the demographics, the racial demographics of students versus teachers in Vermont. This is just one of the things that Great Schools Partnership had in this report. So what it's basically showing is that the student body is a lot more diverse than our teachers. And so it's evolving work. They're continuing to have meetings, so I'll just update you all as needed on that. But it's pretty cool that they're doing it.
Is there any data that you could get? Because this is fascinating, but I think it's like a third, what's
What else do they have?
the diversity of the entire population?
I don't know what else they have. This is what they had in their report. So
Right.
that
But it
probably
would be
exists
really
somewhere
good to
else.
see those three lined up.
Yes, among adults, there's about a 4% Black, Indigenous, people of color population. And among students, I think it's 22%.
Yeah, and
It's much higher.
it's definitely changing, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Vermont too, it's like right now, I think there are 7 states that are what they call like minority majorities, right? That are no longer white majorities. And I don't know, like 2042 is the anticipated date where our country will no longer be a white majority. And I think Vermont is probably sometime after that, would be my guess, probably like 2060 or so. I think that was Oregon, so I'm guessing maybe about the same. But yeah.
And never believe birth projections.
2060, we'll be alive by
We'll see. But yeah, more babies. What was it in 2019? I think it was in 2019 where there were more babies who were babies of color who were being born than white babies. So demographics. Okay, so I'll keep you all updated on this. This was also, just wanted to highlight Basarn, shout out to them, the Vermont Student Anti-Racist Network. They had an advocacy day at the Capitol building, which was pretty cool. And I will note that although we didn't have any students who came with me, I did run into someone who I know who's in a similar position in mine in the school. And she had like 12 middle school students with her. And she said, it took me 3 years. So if not next year, I was like, okay, there's some hope. And there are a lot of things I think that you'll see in the plan for next year that could be like providing some of those avenues to really be able to know who some of these students are who are interested in attending things like this. And this is, I wanted to share some pictures this is from the group of 8th graders at Heartland who have been, they are the ones who did the equity audit of their building to see who was represented in the building. And then as a result of that, they came up with some designs that they came up with them to like for welcoming people into the building in different languages. And anyway, they came up with 3 different murals that they're in the process of painting. So this was during their process. And I'll be in the building next week I'm hosting like drop-in DEI days in the schools. And so I'll be there to actually help some folks contribute, like students contribute to their murals during that time. Okay, those were just, again, a few spotlights. I know there's always more going on in our schools than I share out, so just a few. Okay, and this is just continuing. I think I shared this a couple meetings ago, but I'll keep sort of tracking, like, here's what we're doing, here's what we've covered as a board, because one of my questions is this working? 20 minutes in each board meeting, do you want to continue with that? Is that something that you'd like to change up? So I can keep this going as long as we do, and the slides are all linked. So another question is, how are you bringing like new board members on? How are you sharing all this information with them? So just to keep track of it all in one place. Okay, so now on to some of what we pulled together. This wasn't just for DEI. This was really across, like looking at our strategic plan, how are all the things that we're doing, aligning with that, fitting in, and where does DEI show up generally across all of these. So this is a theory of change I've shared before, just looking at, okay, if we really want change to happen and be sustained, like how do we look at it across institutional, cultural, and individual practices? So although it didn't fit, like we talked about, well, how are we realized that a lot of the goals we were talking about already exist in the strategic plan, right? So it's like goal 1, goal 2, goal 3. It seemed like a lot of the DEI things we were talking about really fit within goal 2. That's culture, and then we added like student and adult wellness. So generally, this is just kind of showing you where this fits, but it's not only here, right? I mean, there are policies, right, which would be more institutional. So anyway, for what it's worth, if you like the visual, this is a way just to think about how, although a lot of the DEI general like work is supported by culture, it also has, implications for individuals and institutions that I'll share in just a moment. So essentially the overarching goal is that students, teachers, staff, family, community members are safe and supported, bringing their full authentic self to the WSESU, contributing to a culture of belonging, that we build and sustain a community of understanding, awareness, and accountability through individual, cultural, and institutional measures. And just putting a note in there too, for anyone who believes that DEI is a set thing, I don't know that it is. I mean, in my understanding of it, it isn't a set thing. It isn't a particular thing. This is what it is and what we will be doing. So we'll approach this from a broad perspective, continuing to look for gaps, centering those most impacted, like we talk about in policies, which had me thinking about too, with even the school-age children, like were parents who had children coming of age to enter school, were they involved in the development of that policy? So as many times as we can the asking, I was thinking too, are there filter questions that the board can be trying on as you all are developing policies that will help surface some of those considerations? So anyway, approaching it broadly, thinking we've been talking, reflective, restorative, collaborative, trauma-informed practices, all generally within this umbrella of DEI. So again, institutional, individual things too. And so there are really like three main goals that we came up with within this sort of broad culture of DEI. And I'll just touch on each of these in a little bit more so you can see what some of what we'll be doing include. So the first one is that all staff, students, teachers, administrators, and board will participate in ongoing capacity building training and support. And so there are a number of things here that are things that we're already doing, things that we need to do more of, right? Like we still know that there are a lot of people in our buildings who don't know about our policies. They don't know that we have an anti-racism, an equity, transgender policy. So part of this is going to be, we need to make sure that that's all happening, that we have staff meetings that are dedicated to these kinds of topics. And I think the biggest news is that we're actually adding the equity coaches for next year. And we have confirmed commitments from people in all of the buildings who are not like, they're excited to be equity coaches. And so I'm super excited. We're going to have like a more of a team approach, which gives us more opportunity to align. Like every building has a different culture, but it's going to give us a little bit more of an opportunity to align and share and resource one another, which is great. Yeah.
So the monthly all staff meeting, is that required for all staff?
Yeah, I mean, they'll be within the school buildings and some of those will be supported by equity coaches.
It's teaching staff, and next year we're excited to be able to offer, we haven't had, support staff haven't been paid to go to staff meetings, and next year Katie has figured a way that they can get paid to attend staff meetings. So they are invited but not mandated to attend those staff meetings.
It's an hour a week they can attend meetings. One, we're asking that it be a staff meeting. The other one can either be a meeting of choice or a meeting that they've been asked to attend. And so regardless of how many hours there are, we can choose or not choose. We can't mandate it just because many people have set schedules for other reasons, but as close as we could get to getting people there.
Yeah.
And people, the feedback's been really positive about that.
Yep.
Being able to have that flexibility.
There, I don't know, Tracy, if it's on here for you, but we have built in some dedicated professional development time as well for the year, which they would be attending without choice.
Without choice. Okay.
Yeah.
So can you just tell us, on average in the 2024 measures, lead measures, on average, how many people from across the supervisor union come to the monthly meeting with equity coaches?
So this is breaking down a couple different meetings. So I'm going to meet once a month with equity coaches across the SU. So I'll meet with them as a team, and then they will support the all staff meetings in their schools. And then I will also be having monthly meetings with our administrative team, like continue to kind of like coaching our like principals and administrators, continuing to meet with them.
So these are your meetings?
Some of them are, and I didn't want to like put too much information in here. So there is more like behind the scenes information about who's responsible for some of these things. So I didn't include that on the slides because it was a lot of words. Okay. But yeah, so some of these are me meeting with the team. And then there's also, responsibilities for building administrators, right? To make sure that that time is on the agenda. And we have like in the third column there, just shows where this aligns with existing policy. So you'll see like anti-racism 12, 15, 16. It links to the policies which have been numbered so that we can see like, are we missing anything that we said we were going to do? So like equity policy 7 and 8, transgender policy 1, And then there's also from the equity audit recommendations, there's numbers like 1.1, 1.3, those were all listed in the recommendation section of the equity audit. So making sure that the things that we say we're gonna do are actually things that we said we were going to do, that we may not have gotten around to doing yet. But there is more, I mean, if you want more detail, I'm happy to share more detail about this. But this one is really around this capacity, this ongoing capacity building, training, and support.
So are your monthly meetings with the admin team, for example?
Yes, that's one of them.
So does that come before, before there's staff meeting?
Well, so here's the plan, right? This is the plan, is that we have June 19th as a full day training for all equity coaches plus administrators. So what I'm imagining is like, and we're gonna have, I'll have a day with equity coaches August 6th, but then throughout the school year, we'll also have 3 full days with equity coaches and administrators. So those are gonna be dispersed so that like the full day, June 19th, my plan is let's experience some of this content, try it on together, like for the things that we're gonna also then be bringing back to school. So that the full days will happen between some of those staff meetings so that folks feel like okay, well, I experienced this thing, now how am I gonna bring this back to my school? And then we can have the monthly check-ins to see how that's going in between like shifting in content. So like the first few months of the year next year is really gonna be, I think, around having some kind of agreements, right? Like how are we doing that in our schools? We share agreements, but they're being used different ways, or we're not using them to actually hold people accountable to things, like to actually agree, like we agreed to listen to understand, not to advocate for a specific point of view, whatever it is, somehow like actually getting to some point of agreement. That's culture building, right? So the first few months may be around that in the schools. Again, schools are in different places, but they can resource each other with some of what they've been doing. Like Heartland has been having more conversations about agreements. And then if we can do that, the January in-service day is going to be, right? If we can keep holding it as a full day DEI day, so that, for those few months leading up to that, we're really thinking about our culture, about agreements, about identity, values, and how that also connects with the new EQS, the education quality standards. Are going to be asking educators like how are you in reflection, right, around your own cultural identity and the identities of your students. So it actually ties to that. So get everybody all set, January have this in-service day. And then after that, we'll see, have some thoughts about what might happen after that. But maybe if we get through next year, and continuing to plant seeds for an equity filter, which again is just a set of questions that we can be using consistently. So kind of chunk it out with time to really actually spend doing the work, putting it into practice. Is that okay? I can also, I'm like, I need a visual for what that could look like, which I don't. I have one in the end
we
of
have
this,
a
which
plan.
is,
It feels so good
Yeah.
to have a plan forward. And it might not seem complex and complicated, but to bring all those pieces and parts together, Tracy's been doing a phenomenal job, so.
because there's a lot that's just it's all over, right? And even thinking about how do those norms and agreements align with some of what we're doing with Leader in Me. Leader in Me, we have classrooms that are creating their classroom mission, but we're not actually looking at where are the shared parts of those missions, right? So we're like, what if it could be cool, right? Next year, maybe we look at Windsor Middle. I was talking with Colleen about this and see like what are all the classrooms coming up with? What are are there 2 or 3 shared agreements across those classrooms? What about across Windsor? What about across RSU? And then we can actually say, okay, you all came up with this, and now how do you hold yourselves and each other accountable to the agreements that you're setting for yourselves? So something that can be both like macro and, micro, but that we can really use for that accountability. And maybe then the next year we take those and maybe we put them in the handbooks. People have to sign off on them or, find ways to keep integrating those parts of accountability. So I know we're gonna be, we've got about 3 minutes left, so I'll just share kind of high level on these.
Sorry.
This one, I mean, again, it's just, y'all have the slides so you can look through, but it really is taking all the things that we said we were going to do and trying to bring it together. What else?
You gotta get to the graphics.
Yeah, I mean, in this one, you know, the last one was building and sustaining the dedicated team, right? So this is having the equity coaches who can then be building the equity teams. So these, again, are all the things we said we were going to do, and we're finding ways to do it that actually connect with some of the other things that we're doing. So we're not competing with, you know, the culture team for Leader and Me and DEI team. It's like we're finding ways to hopefully integrate and try this out next year.
Good.
This is just some other goals, right, that didn't fit in like the culture one, but show up maybe in other parts of our of the leadership plan. So like teachers trained in cultural awareness, culturally responsive teaching practices, core competencies, looking at how they show up K through 12. Where is empathy? Where are students learning about difference, right? Those kinds of things. Part of it too. Equity coach, this is just in here if you want to see, but it's just an overview of what the equity coach, they'll be like an instructional coach. I'll be working with them. So it's in addition to what their job is. And what's really cool is that we have people who are classroom teachers, we have a social emotional interventionist, we have a counselor. So we have a good representation of different roles in our school. And then just some examples of what they'll be doing, but it's really just being a person who's serving as that point person within their schools, who can help with some of this alignment, sharing, resourcing. Oh, this is the graphic that I had, which again, it's like some alignment. Again, like I was saying, if we're working on norms and agreements, identity values, you know, then maybe like we can all be moving in a little bit more alignment with each other across the SU is the hope. And that we can, you know, like we've been doing with these meetings. I remember offering when we first started, it was like, here are all the things we can do. And I think it was Nikki who said, well, maybe we can just sort of see what's needed. And so it's going to be a little bit of that also, is how do we flex with whatever's coming up and still take into consideration all the things that we know are happening and how we can address those more strategically in our schools. So that's the plan. And now I'm about time, so I'm not even gonna ask, but maybe just to think about next time we meet is, you know, again, like we've been, you know, we've had 20 minutes each meeting. Is this useful? Is this valuable? Or is there some other way that you would want to continue to learn together? So I'll pause there.
Okay.
We're coming up on your anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All you.
All right. Should be coming up. All right. So just give my annual report to the board for finance and operations. Just as a reminder, I know it's small text up on the board, but over 300 employees, 3 member school districts, SU, almost 750,000 square feet of building space, 30 acres of property, 3,000 network devices, 1,500 users, over 200,000 student meals annually, and $25 million of budget capacity with the general funds, closer to 40 when you include all the other grants. Our human resources, so what we new initiatives this year is HR and payroll have been using an integrated ticketing system. We've had over 185 tickets from the employees to HR and payroll with an average resolution time under 3 hours. Our next step is to integrate the system with the onboarding system. When somebody's onboarded, there's a lot of things that have to be done to ensure that nothing gets missed with all our different systems. We could create separate tickets from each onboarding form that's filled out that they can do. Again, making sure that our process is efficient and nothing is getting missed when we onboard new people with Frontline, Power School, Google, and more. We introduced the first annual employee anniversary recognition program, which was held at the opening in-service to recognize the many years of consecutive service of our hundreds of employees across the SU. It was greatly appreciated, and I know they're looking forward to it already for August. For buildings and grounds, we implemented a facilities request form serving over 60 after-school events. It includes a two-step approval process, and it's integrated into Jim's calendar, so he doesn't have to do anything. It goes to the building approver, they approve it. It goes to Jim, he approves it, and then it's in his calendar, so he knows how to take care of the event. We also have the Act 72 facilities assessment. We have assessments for all 4 buildings, which will drive our 5-year capital plans per Rule 100, which I'm going to talk about later. For IT, we upgraded our core switch. It's over 10 years old. Through attrition, not an additional FTE, we've been able to hire a communication specialist, which many of you know, to satisfy goal 3 of the strategic plan. We've ordered many interactive board displays. On the top right, I have the statistics for IT services. Tickets are down. I think some of that is the bullpen. SLA percentage is down, up slightly.
What's the bullpen?
So the bullpen is all of our techs now are in the same space. That was an outcome of COVID. During COVID, we put them all together, and once we came back from remote, and we feel that it has helped get things done better because they're together. Food service, and maybe you've noticed a theme, food request form, a way to do catering for all these special events, whether it's an administrative team meeting, whether it's a retreat, whether it's a field trip, box lunches, etc. Over 188 events. A vast improvement allows faculty to know if an order was confirmed. It allows food services to standardize the menu of requests so they weren't getting, I like certain beans and certain whatever.
Yeah.
It's everything is standardized. They get a choice, but not complete choice, right? So there's freedom within structure. A free breakfast and lunch, Act 64, over 54,000 since September 1st to today. 54,000 breakfasts and 103,000 lunches have been served free to students. Our business service, all budgets adopted and passed. There's a revote in a week for one of them. I want to thank Ed Connors for his work with the building's principals for the local budgets. Our fiscal year 23 audits came back without any findings, and they've all been posted to the website. Deanna Kroll spends a lot of time working with the auditors. It's and she's getting ready to do it again now for fiscal year 24, which is what we're in right now, audit. This is many consecutive years of audits without any material findings. Purchasing agent Kylie Taft has processed over 1,200 purchasing requests thus far. And Gail McCoy and Kylie Taft both handle accounts payable, and they processed over 4,000 invoices for all our schools and the supervisors union. And I wanted to add something to this year's report that I think is important. And every bullet you see there, obviously, I think our staff members, and I know you do at the board level, are aware of payroll and how payroll works. And I'm sure you're aware that there's W-2s that have to be reported, et cetera. But there's many state and federal mandated reporting that we have to do that goes on behind the scenes that I don't think any staff members are aware of, and maybe even some board members. So I want to put it down. These are monthly reports we do, and quarterly and annual, and the annual list is very long, as you can see. And these include everything from the business office to IT, as Bill knows about DCO4, DCO5, DCO6, et cetera. This includes the community eligibility report, which is food service, all the harvest reports, which is a state food service system. So I think there's a lot of things I think it's important to understand in the central office that goes on. That is a lot of work, and it never really goes applauded, I guess, is the lack of a better word. You don't see it because it's not as visual as making sure the students' Wi-Fi works or that a student gets a free lunch. These are things that we are required, either at the state level or the federal requirement, to do on a regular basis.
Is it just those two women who are doing, who's doing all of
You know,
this?
the
So,
whole team, yeah.
It's Ed Connors, it's Deanna. Most of the things in these bullets are business office. Kylie and Gail. Now, most of this stuff that you see here is Tina, Deanna, and Ed. And myself, I'm taking over some of this stuff. The DC reports are me and Ryan. And we're rolling out the new Ed5 system.
You don't have the federal civil rights reporting up there.
No, I'm sure I couldn't, I'm running out of room.
You didn't have a
That's enough.
semi-annual.
Yeah.
Even though we've done it for the last 2 years.
So the other thing is, speaking of, mandates, I thought another one that you all should be aware of is that Rule 100, which includes the district quality standards. So you might have heard about the education quality standards. The district quality standards are due July 1, 2025, so we have some time. But Christina's tasked me to help make sure we meet these requirements. And they're around 3 basic things: business operations, facilities management, safety, and governance. And the numbers next to each subcategory are the tasks, the deliverables that are due, that we have to show around budgeting and accounting, risk management, internal controls. We're going to talk more about this as the year goes on, because it's due July 1, 2025. And there are some things in here for you as an SU board, which is the governance part, priorities, protocols, processes. So this won't be the last time you see about Rule 100, but I wanted you to be aware of it, that this is going to take up some work. And I'll be reporting out on how we're meeting these new Rule 100 requirements. Again, due July 1, 2025. Facilities management, for example, is every school has to have a 5-year plan, which again, we're doing pretty well on. Risk management, internal controls around business operations. Some of them we're already meeting, obviously, with our GAAP accounting and our audits, personnel management, et cetera. So just want to give you a heads up that this is coming down the pipe, and I'll be spending a lot of time on that. Moving forward, here's my plan for the next 12 months or so. I want to, the purchasing request form, similar to what I did with the food service request form, is that it goes into a black box. They fill out a Google form, and the faculty, and Kylie does a great job of fulfilling everything and following up with faculty if something is not available anymore. But I'd like to automate that a little bit, where the teachers can get feedback that something has been ordered, something, when it's shipped, it's been shipped, so that they're aware. So it's not just a black box that they, hey, I put this order in, it's been 3 weeks, where are we? Am I going to get my markers or whatever? Integrated onboarding form, which I've already talked about. The new state reporting system with Ed5 and data validation. I've already mentioned some of these other things before. You can look this over. I'm not going to read every bullet, but the communications for the strategic plan. We're launching a new website this summer. The facilities ticketing system, we're going to bring that in-house. Rather than using, currently they use essentially a ticketing system that is basically emails. And we're going to take that and make that a real ticketing system for facilities. And Jimmy's ready to make that plunge. So I want to thank him for that. Slow and steady, right? And I want to create an eval system for finance and operations. I'm going to start with my direct reports, and then hopefully it'll filter down. I think everybody deserves an annual review, and that's what we're going to try to create for the people within finance and operations. I've already mentioned the facilities assessments. Obviously, the fall and the winter is taken up mostly around budget season. We're going to be working on the SU budget, and then I'll do all the local budgets for fiscal year 26. Our phone system is end of life in June of 2025, and we're working on that. These are all the employees under finance and operations, over 45 employees, and really just appreciate all the work they do every day. And obviously they don't get to see through the board, but as you go through each building, you see them. And I just want to thank them. They allow our teachers to do what they do best, which is teach, students to do what they do best, which is learn. And so it's really important that we have a partnership with finance and operations. If you have any questions, I am here.
So I'm happy about having the ticket systems sort of to roll out, especially in HR. And for grounds, I at heart reuse a Google form that I created. It works, but it's not really sufficient.
This is amazing.
Yeah. I'm done.
I see that Cornish and Plainfield are going to consultants.
Yeah,
We're gonna lose
so-
some money there.
Yeah, we are, as they've hired a director of technology, who happens to be Tina Canfield's husband. They stole him from Woodstock, and he is doing a great job. We knew going into that, as they were ready to have a IT director, that they would use us less. So we're under year one of a contract this year, which I create a step down plan. So it wouldn't be a big loss in revenue for the SU. We are going to lose revenue.
Yeah.
But we're trying to create a step down so it goes from 25,000 to 15,000 and then eventually to zero. Now, that being said, the superintendent and Corey do want to keep us on retainer. So what kind of revenue dollars, it's a small amount of money, that'll look like for the SU budget is to be decided, but there will be, I feel pretty confident we're gonna have a future contract with Cornish and Plainfield just as a tier 3 status, or essentially a retainer.
To chair that council. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Items for discussion, followed by motion. If needed, policy F40, procurement policy. This is the second reading, but at the same time, though, it's still my understanding while reading through this again, we're changing the dollar amount to match
The state law.
the state law. And so with that in mind, I'm gonna take a motion to approve it.
And what you're saying is that everything else in the policy is as it was, we're just updating some numbers.
We're updating the numbers. Our sealed bids and for competitive proposal to match state law and micro purchases.
Can you just remind me what we're changing from and to?
I have to look at the old version, but I believe the old version was competitive proposals was 15,000 or greater, and now according to the state, it's 40,000 or greater. So we're just matching the state.
Sure.
And the other one is,
Sealed bids is in excess of $200,000.
Yeah.
Which would be like transportation, et cetera.
right,
Got it. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. If we're not
Yeah.
materially changing anything other than just getting live with the state on some numbers.
This came from the audit, not a finding, obviously, but they said you might want to update your policy to reflect state law. The state just updated it, I think, a year or two ago, so it's relatively new.
so do we have a motion?
Yes, I move to accept the procurement policy F40 as written.
Beth?
Yeah, quick question. Does this procurement policy also include all our food procurement?
Yes, if it's it depends if it's a competitive proposal. So if it's something over $40,000, he'd have to get multiple bids. So like we did this for the best example I can use is although it came under buildings and grounds was a high school cafeteria.
Yeah.
The serving line at Windsor came in under the 15,000, so it was not affected by this under our old policy.
I think
There's just
If I
rules that
add
you need to follow within the food service program of requiring bids within certain procurements of certain products and things like that. So that's all covered under this. Because it doesn't necessarily have to meet $40,000, but you still have to write specific requirements to procure objects. So if you want to buy only local tomatoes, you need to make sure you put that on your specific bid when you go out and are looking for it, or else anybody can sell you tomatoes and they're cheaper.
Yeah, it basically what this does is it allows school districts to buy things, purchase without things with larger amount of monies. This is a less restrictive policy than what it was before, not a more restrictive policy, because they raised the dollar amounts for the restrictive purchasing to be kicked in.
I understand what the policy is. I'm more saying there's more restrictive policies within the food service program usually that we just need to follow those rules because they're federal requirements. So we just need to make sure what policy, like this one doesn't trump that if we have to actually do certain bids for smaller amounts.
No, my understanding is any federal policies trump all these policies, and then
that's all I
we
need.
could have a less restrictive one, which we did.
Yeah.
But the auditor suggested going to the state law, which is 16 BSA. So yes, that insofar as federal policy is tighter, which we do for certain grants,
Sure.
like title and et cetera, they don't. Anything that's a more restrictive, we have to go with the federal. But for anything for our policy, again, an example would be switches or something, network switches.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got it.
The federal policy is the floor.
Yes.
So we can make things more restrictive, but we can't make them less restrictive.
Yes. Yes.
So do I have a second?
Second. I said second.
Thank you, Nancy. Any discussion? Any further discussion? So, Larry, am I correct? Basically, raising the dollar amount makes this policy less restrictive.
Yes. It
Okay.
matches the state law. So
Okay.
if now anything within 15,000, now you have a window of it. Instead of 15,000 up to 40,000, you wouldn't have to get competitive proposals.
Okay.
That's down on your process time.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any more discussion? We'll go around the vote. Start with online. Beth Roy. Anne Marie.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Now who am I missing?
Nikki, aye.
Nikki, you're here.
I'm here.
Okay, outstanding. I think that's it. Online.
Mark, right?
I got Mark.
Yep. I think you're good.
Elizabeth.
Aye.
Nancy.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
And I am an aye.
Thank you.
Christine, are you going to let Lori know?
I will.
Thank you, everybody. I felt it important to get that out of the way, seeing we're coming to the end of the school year. SU Budget Committee members.
Bill, you skipped the
You skipped a
resolution.
bunch of,
The
you
resolution.
skipped the resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did. It's just one word. I hard to mess. Okay, so Larry handed this to me, and he actually got it on the agenda on short notice. This is a resolution for the First Light purchasing, and unexpectedly, they requested that we do it with a resolution. We're gonna pay it anyway.
We're under a 5-year contract. And
Right.
Year 2, we're heading into year 2 of a contract. So
Right.
I've signed the contract, everything, but they asked for, I'm not First Light, our consultant
Right.
through USAC, which is the E-rate part of the money, kind of like what Beth was talking about earlier. They've asked for a board resolution to confirm what we're already doing.
So my ask of Larry is that if we bring this, probably vote on it, but then ask confirmation of why it needs to be in a resolution.
We've never been asked to do this before.
So is there any change in federal law for funding and so forth that requires this? And if so, then we can put it into the churning wheel of administration of the school board. So to pass this resolution, which is to be resolved that the governing board of Fort Windsor Southeast Supervisor Union, and that's highlighted and underlined, one, authorizes the filing of FCC Form 471, Schools and Libraries Universal Service Program services ordered for the fiscal year 07/01/2024 to June 30th, 2025. Two, authorizes payment of the applicant's share subject to the following condition. One, approval of funding of the discounted portions by the Schools and Libraries Division, SLD, of the Universal Service Administration Company, USAC. And two, receipt of services during the fiscal year July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. So that's the resolution. I'm not exactly sure what it all means with the acronyms and everything, but.
Can you give me a very brief review of what First Light is? And like that's something.
So First Light is our ISP.
Okay.
First Light's our ISP. USAC is the FCC arm for E-rate. And E-rate gives you a discount on your internet based on your free and reduced lunch count of your SU. And for us, that discount rate is 7%.
So basically, in short, they're asking us to have a resolution so they can give us a bunch of money. And they've never asked us before. And we have no idea why they require it. But I suggest we pass it and then find out why they require it.
I've already followed up to ask them why now, but I just brought it to the board.
Yep.
So moved.
Go ahead.
So moved.
Okay. So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm as interested as you are to find out why they want us to have a resolution to do something that seems pretty routine.
Right. My only fear is that if we don't pass the resolution, they won't give us that money.
I mean, yeah, that's.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor? And I will go through the internet again. Anne Marie,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Beth, Beth, you're welcome just to give a thumbs up.
Aye. I was.
Okay. Nicole,
Aye.
that it?
Yeah.
Okay, Elizabeth,
Aye.
Nancy,
Aye.
Megan,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
and I am an aye. Passes. Yep. Okay, while I take care of signing this, SU Budget Committee members, where are we at with that?
Anne Marie for Weathersfield has volunteered, and Sarah will be the backup if need be. And Nikki, confirm it was Hannah, right, that agreed to be the SU Budget Committee person?
That's what I'm remembering.
Hannah.
Hannah
new.
Emery.
Yep.
It's okay.
Oh.
I'll remember.
And for the Mount Escutney Board, I don't know that you've made that decision yet, have you? Mount Escutney Board?
I don't think so. I thought it was.
It was Rebecca.
It was Rebecca.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
didn't you volunteer? I don't remember, I'm sorry.
I don't think that we did.
I remember Elizabeth volunteering. So I remember thinking it was going to be cool to be on the thing with her.
This be the draft minutes that we approved.
It could be that I volunteered to do it until January.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Actually.
I think that's what, yeah.
So you got that, Larry?
Anne Marie, Hannah, and Elizabeth.
Yep.
You got it.
And Sarah's a backup for Anne Marie if need be.
Okay. Sarah's back up.
Yep.
And maybe we can get Amy to take over in January.
Yes, I mean,
Well, we won't need to go past January.
Oh, I hope not. Okay.
Hopefully not.
hopefully the
That's
SU is not.
Hopefully not.
Historically, it's not. The latest I've ever done the SU was late November.
Yeah, I hesitate to do it because I also have,
All those reports.
support staff,
Oh, right. That's right.
So
negotiations.
I'll be sending an email out in August, September, around that time frame, and probably closer to September, and we usually meet Friday mornings on Google Meet.
Thank you. Child care tax, where do we stand?
Everybody, all the districts have supported the full
Okay,
cost, yeah.
great, outstanding. Okay. Guess I have something to talk about on Thursday. Introductory discussion, BOCES.
OSIS. Do you want to talk about it this time? Or
I mean,
I think we should wait until it's been signed into law. And
Right,
I thought by now it would be because
but it's not quite there.
it's cost saving measure, so it should be something that the governor signs into law, but it is not yet signed into law, and it is also not on the override list. So, I think we should wait.
Wait till June?
Yeah.
Think it'll be done, okay.
Well, the override date is, June 17th and 18th. So, yeah, by then, we should know.
Yeah, because we'll meet before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which does make sense.
So that means that all the bills have to be signed before June 17th.
Introductory discussion, supervisory union partners. Something we've been kicking around for quite some time. As long as I've been on the board. Thinking about it. Being able to partner in certain areas with surrounding SUs.
And also, just as background, it was on page 84 of Act 146. It was the last thing on Act 146 that was never followed through upon, was merging supervisory unions. And they had us paired with Springfield automatically with no discussion. And now that the Blue Ribbon Commission will be coming forward, one of the things that they are bound to discuss is merging supervisory unions. And I thought it would just be a good idea for us to talk about who we would consider our potential partners. And if we did consider potential partners, what we could do with that, because there are things that we could do right away with it.
So let me ask a clarifying question. So when you say potential partners, do you mean two supervisory unions becoming one supervisory union?
With one superintendent?
Well, we could,
I mean, that's a merger. Partnering to me sounds like something different. But,
start with partnering,
right.
which the BOSES bill will enable. But it, to my mind, are thinking about partnering with both Mountain View Supervisory.
That's correct.
No.
That's Woodstock Mountain View. Yep.
I know, but they're not a supervisory union, they're a unified union.
Yes.
Well,
And
they're both. Yeah, they're both.
they both are.
Yeah.
But we could increase our pool of, for example, maintenance. We could bring down cost of certain maintenance projects. We could bring down we could have more buying power with food. We could have more buying power in certain areas. We could come up with a agreement on teacher contracts, so we're not competing with each other for.
Out of the districts, looking at just a few things that you said, I think Mountain View as in food service makes sense. I think in technology it makes sense just because I think the next state reporting shift is if you don't have Power School or Infinite Campus, then it's just your workload's going to be huge because they're the only two that are really moving forward with the new state reporting modules right now. I'm not sure I want to dip my two worlds together with right now until
Well, I mean,
something's
so
worked out, but with Hartford. But I mean, looking at the merger side of it, when looking at the end date of high schools, and merging SUs to create a regional high school, both Springfield and Hartford makes complete sense to me because both their buildings are end dating within the next 30 years. So that
This seems like a much bigger, deeper discussions for the last 20 minutes of a board meeting. Is this something that would be worth putting forth like for a retreat?
But yes, we were gonna talk about it at the retreat, but I thought it would be a good idea to agree in principle that we're interested in it before we discuss it at the retreat. Because if we're not interested in it, then there's no point in discussing it at the retreat.
So
It would be a waste of time.
I think that before I can decide if I'm interested in it or not, I need to understand functionally what it means. Because right now I've heard it in terms of merger or a partnership, and we're talking about working with in some way another SU, which I think like on a very high level, like, and just as a gut thing, it's like, yeah, sure, we should work with people around us, but without any degree of detail as to what that functionally means and a more substantive discussion of what that would look like, I don't really feel able to sign off on any sort of even like an agreement of purpose on that. Because again, fundamentally, it immediately came up, are we talking about merger or partnership? And I don't think that question has been answered in the last 5 to 10 minutes. So until we can clearly define that kind of stuff, I mean, I think that we need to maybe come at this with a somewhat more concrete, solid idea of what the discussion is, and then we can kind of move from there.
So let me break down my vision of this, okay? I think if we're going to discuss about merging, I think the only thing we can decide is, hey, it's something to explore. Because merging two SUs is a minimum of a 5-year discussion among.
Yeah, the partnership is a step towards considering a merger.
Right.
I mean, it's not.
Well, it may not necessarily even be a step forward. It may be something to share resource. One example is one area that we are hurting in this SU is food management. And so the possibility of merging on some level our food programs to expand our buying power and to share management of the different cafeterias at a higher level to create a hierarchy could be really beneficial for this SU because of all the paperwork involved or menu creation under federal law, the state law, and things like that. It may be something that would be beneficial for our two districts. Anne Marie, do you still have a question? Oh, I think you do have a question.
I don't so much have a question as just I think it is a good idea to start talking about this and to start making plans because like with Act 46, we actually ended up in a really good place because we already had some sort of plans or some ideas of what we wanted to do before it happened. So we weren't forced to merge like some other towns were just kind of told like who they're going to be with, and there you go. We sort of got to choose, and I think it would be a good idea again to get ahead of it and choose who we want to partner with, so we don't end up just kind of stuck with maybe a community that doesn't support their schools as well as ours do. So I just think that we should definitely at least start thinking about it, and I love the idea of getting together and working with Mountain Views for the food service.
So on a counter side as well, Anne Marie, is starting the discussion so we can weed out all the bad reasons to merge as well as the good reasons. So if the state does come to us, we've had all of the discussions, we created all of the research, we have more of the facts to present a case for what we as an SU want as opposed to what the state wants. Because it's coming down the pike at some time in which they're going to, again, try to find some forced monetary savings, which the last, I think, 3 things that they've done have been a complete failure.
Yeah, since food services talked about it a few times, I was going to save it for executive session, but so just stop me if I get too close. Yeah. So we're looking for a food service director. Woodstock is about 10 days ahead of us. Yep. Because Gretchen is moving on. And I've been in talks with Jim Fenn. I've had a couple meetings with Jim. Jim Fenn's the business manager, my counterpart over at Woodstock. Mountain View, SU. And they, like I said, they're 10 days ahead of us. As of then, they had they didn't have any applicants that they were ready to move forward with. We have some applicants, and I am working on a committee to get together. We don't know if they're the right ones. And something that Jim and I discussed a lot was, I also met separately last week with Jim, the Addison Northwest and Mount Abe SUs who share food service, like as we're discussing. And one thing that came up in that discussion that Jim and I both agreed on was we may find a food service director that can handle 1,100 kids and 3 kitchens and 4 schools and an SU style and all the other things that go along with being director of food service. But to find somebody that could handle 7 kitchens or 8 kitchens and 2,500 kids, we would have the economy of scale to offer that person a salary commensurate with doing that work. But we may not find the right person. So right now where we are with Jim is the very early stages of possibly, if we can find the right person, that's something that I would bring back to the board. But right now, we're looking for a food service director for the Winter Southeast Supervisory Union, and Jim's looking for a food service director for the Mountain Views SU. If we can find somebody who could do that, and that may be down the road, even with a person under our auspice, we will do that. But right now,
at the same time, though,
and that would be more of a partnership.
Right. I'm sure in the SUs that share a food service, their managerial administrative structure is probably significantly different than a single SU.
Yeah, so Mount Addison is an SU, and then Mount Abe is a district, and the person that person is a Mount Abe employee, and then they backbill the Addison Northwest SU their portion of her salary.
Yeah.
But all the other staff cooks and lead cooks are employees of their respective SU.
Right.
It doesn't.
So we're all thinking along the same lines.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing if we look at merging a special ed structure between 2 SUs. It would create a much larger and robust administrative team. And from that, there may be some cost savings, but more importantly, administrative savings of scale. But with that in mind, it would take that would take several years to be able to move in that direction. But on a similar note, looking at maintenance teams, to be able to create shared maintenance responsibilities, you would create larger, more efficient crews to go from building to building to be able to support each other. But
one thing I would say about maintenance is it's important to know the food service would be more ready to do something like this because food service are all SU employees, and our maintenance, while buildings and grounds, I manage with Jim, who manages the team. Jim is a Mount Scotty employee and not an SU employee. Just want to be clear on that. So I think that's a great idea, and that may come down the road, but it would behoove making the buildings and grounds director an SU employee to allow that for the future, if that's something the board wants to do.
So based on everything I'm hearing, I appreciate this conversation because it gives a little bit more detail as to like on a programmatic basis where these opportunities to, and I'm assuming it would be service agreements, MOUs, that kind of thing.
Like we've had for Cornish for years.
Yep. Yeah, program by program. Maybe, and because we're still waiting for the BOSIS bill to get some clarity on that because that's the whole process. Maybe the way that we move forward with this conversation is to look at this on a program by program basis, because when we talk about partnership, not getting into the whole merger idea yet, because I think focusing this conversation on partnership makes the most sense right now, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we do that, we get that program by program picture of like what it would look like to share resource X with District A versus District B, or that kind of, or just to get a rough idea so we can get a more detailed global picture of what we're talking about. So I think that my knee jerk and my gut is that like, yeah, this is something that I'm interested in learning about and I want to sign off in it, but I also want to have a better idea of like what exactly, what's the broad view of the different programs and services that we could enter into service agreements or MOUs with other districts or SUs with. And then if we decide we want to go there, maybe prioritize, like make a kind of running order, like how do we want to structure that? Who do we want to start talking to? How do we want to start doing that outreach? And I think other questions will come up throughout that process, right? That's how my brain works, right? Is I think that if we have that kind of swath of information before us, it'll be easier to sift through it and have a more substantive
the other idea is a look at a 20 or 30 year plan in which if the fact that we have two school districts who still have choice, if their voters get to the point where they don't want to deal with the fluctuation of tuition, okay, and they just want those high school students to come to one location, the reality is in this SU, we do not have the room for them, okay? We don't have the room for all our high school students. Take that with a mind in that Springfield and Hartford are buildings that were built in the 1960s, okay? Average lifespan of a school building is 35 years. And so that kind of puts you in the mold where they're at. In 20 years, these buildings are probably going to be in the same condition Woodstock is.
Which is not good.
Which is not good. So one partner, which is a common throughout the country, is creating a regional high school. And the reality is we have 3 SUs that can't afford the $80 million price tag that it would probably cost, as opposed to building a single high school. Whereas all the high school students are within a 30-minute drive. Geographically, it's possible. And so to be able to merge not just 3 high schools, but to merge 2 technical schools, which are really under constructed. Hartford in particular, well, I don't know in particular, but I know that Hartford has a much higher demand for enrollment than they can take. They can take around 300 students. And the regional demand is easily within 500, 600, 700 students. And so to create a new building that has a new tech center, a new high school, state-of-the-art, and an on-campus college facilities as well. And that would enable students to start college earlier for those that are able. I just think it's a vision worth discussing and pursuing so that in the next 20 to 30 years, we're prepared, unlike the situation that Woodstock's in, where they're really in a crappy situation. And because they have a building that's not functional. So that's another thing that I feel very strongly about discussing at this level and then seeing where we want to go with it and start discussing with other SUs nearby. There are two places in the state of Vermont. I'll keep going here before we go and see if we have to go into executive. There's two places in the state of Vermont that are ripe for merger. The I-91 corridor and the I-89 corridor, especially around the Barry Montpelier area and right here along the Hartford, Windsor, Springfield, and then further south you have the Bellows Falls and down into Brattleboro area are ripe for mergers because you have the highway. Thank you, Eisenhower. And I would rather plan for that long term as opposed to doing nothing and taking what we get. With that said, any other discussion about this? Do we need executive, setting the next agenda?
Can we take action on that? Hire the resignation?
Oh, absolutely.
Sorry.
Megan, is that what you were?
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Okay,
Right.
can we list out those names of hire?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a note there. Oops. That is the list for hiring. Do them all at once if you so choose.
I move that we approve the hiring of Frank Kelly, Patty Fish, Donna Hatch, Jeannie Wade, and Leota Tucker.
Seconded.
Do we have any discussion?
We're excited to have applicants.
Yes. Can I have my visual again?
Yes. I really do need to have both computers, but
I
there you
know.
go.
All those in favor of hiring these individuals, which we are very lucky and honored to get. Anne Marie?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Nicole?
She may be eating dinner.
Oh, Beth Ann?
Let's go.
Beth is gone. And this is Nikki, and I'll say aye. You guys all froze, so I don't even know if you said anything.
Did you get Sarah?
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Okay.
guess
Okay.
we didn't hear from Beth.
She's gone. There's a lot going on this evening for people.
Okay.
Picking up kids.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Okay. Do you, these are the resignations. Jean, Craig, and Rodney. So I think you need to approve those.
Okay.
I will make a motion to approve the resignations of
And retirement, I'm sorry, Gino's a retirement.
the retirement of Gene Morse and the resignations of Craig Locarno and Rod DeClaro.
Do we have to approve retirements?
I mean, technically,
No.
no,
It's
Okay,
the same as if somebody
didn't sign their
didn't sign
contract.
that.
so I'll rescind my motion and I will move.
Back up there.
Yeah, I move. I will move to approve the resignations of Craig Locarno and Rod DeClaro.
Second.
Any discussion?
I mean, I just want to recognize what Craig and Rodney have contributed to our SU. I mean, I think that the current state of our food program. I have not been here for the entirety of Craig and Rodney's tenure here, but I just have memories of what food service was like. Circa 1995 through 2002. It's very different now, and it's qualitatively leaps and bounds above that. I'm aware that they really had a lot to do with that change. So they'll be missed.
Yeah.
I think they'll leave a really strong legacy of providing nutrition and some nutritional education and information to our students, so that they can do their best learning and being in our school environment. So thanks to both of them.
Yeah, they've really done a remarkable job. And I mean, from the Albert Bridge side, where because Rodney lives in Brownsville, he makes sure that the food gets to the school hot and fresh and gets set up and served properly. And it's a huge, huge, huge difference in the nutrition, but also in the uptake. So thank you both very, very much. I
Deeply regret.
Yep.
All right,
All in favor of accepting these two resignations, even though it's acceptance with a heavy heart? Anne Marie?
I with regrets.
Yes. Sarah?
I with regrets.
Mark?
I with regrets.
Nicole?
I with regrets as well.
Elizabeth?
I with true regrets, because I know that I suspect it's because of the cuts that we had to make from our supervisory union level that's leading to this, and I truly do regret that.
Nancy?
I with a big thank you.
Megan?
Aye.
I
Davis? You're shaking your head, so it didn't cross my mind. And I'm an I with the best of luck to future endeavors. Setting next agenda. I think we're pretty set for the.
for June, yes, we've got, again, can't pull it up because I'm on the computer, but we'll put the BOCES on for June. Do you want to save the partnership conversation for the retreat in August? Okay. And we'll bring back the local wellness policy
Yes,
in June. We'll have that ready.
which is one reason in mind when you start talking about having a sort of a pre-policy
Yeah.
committee that really makes sense.
Yeah, and they've been working on it, what came out from the AOE and now merging with what we had in our local wellness policy. That's what Katie's working on with a team of health educators and e-teachers and nurses, so grateful that they're tackling it. Okay, and then my report, Tracy will come back with what we want to do for the future of the board with Tracy next year, and Katie will do her strength seclusion, how many people are trained report, that's due at the end of the season, and Angie will come back. She's on for the curriculum and data report. She's being Brittany right now. And she will be coming back with information on the continuous improvement plan next month. That's all from my memory. Not bad, huh?
And also, what's his name?
Oh, and Mike Mickelson.
Mike
Yep,
Mickelson.
Mike will be here. Yep. And I think, Bill, that Larry would like to go into executive session just for a quick few minutes.
And
That would be
you have something
under,
to share as well
under contracts.
in the contract.
It'll be, Larry will talk about contracts.
Okay,
That's why we're going in.
okay. So I will take a motion to go into VSA 313 for a discussion of contracts. Did I say that right?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Can we just do a voice vote on this?
Yep, sure.
All in favor of going into executive session, please say aye.
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 So, this always freaks me out a little bit. Yeah. So I'm gonna stop recording first.
Yeah.
Just go to the convention and represent them. No beeps.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for being patient with us with this late night. I will take a motion to end this SU board meeting.
So moved. Oh, sorry.
You both moved it. Somebody needs a second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
All right, stop recording.